This is the No More Wasted Days podcast, and we're your hosts, Sarah Kaufman Bradstreet
and Heather PG. Grab your favorite NA drink and listen as we share vulnerable stories so you never feel alone on your alcohol-free journey.
And gain insights from us as we break down our most used tips and strategies that have kept us alcohol-free.
It's time to break free from wasting any more of your days to the drinking, blackout, hangover cycle.
Welcome to another episode of the No More Wasted Days podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sarah.
I'm Heather.
And I think we're talking about something really cool today. We're talking all about finding spirituality on your alcohol-free journey and straying away from the typical Christianity that you may think of, because this is something I really struggled with when I started my alcohol-free journey.
Yeah, I have struggled with it my whole life and really thought about it at the beginning of my journey and a whole lot this year.
And if you are listening to this and you're like, well, I am Christian, so this isn't for me, it may be because although Heather and I are not heavily, let me think how to phrase it. Although Heather and I don't identify as Christian, I guess that's a way to say it, we are both very open to whatever brings you this kind of higher power, as they say in AA, into your alcohol-free journey. Because forever I just brushed it off. I thought, I don't need that. I'm not going to do that because, like Heather was saying, it's something I have struggled with for my whole life.
Yeah, I was just going to say too, like if you're Buddhist or Jewish or Universalist Unitarian, which I am, there's so much packed into spirituality that might help you out. Like you might learn some different concepts or some different ideas.
Yeah, and it's actually made me more open to my parents' religion, which was my religion, and we'll dive into that. But before we dive into it, I just want to remind you, if you haven't already, please rate and review the podcast. You can actually do this while you're listening to the podcast. So you can continue to listen to us. You can go make sure you're subscribed and then hit those stars on whatever app you're listening to. So give us that rate and review. And are you ready to dive into this?
Let's go.
Okay. It could be a heavy topic, but I think when you've got me and Heather, it won't be. We'll keep it light and we'll keep it accessible for all of you. So before we dive into how you can find this kind of spirituality on your alcohol-free journey, because I'm going to give you strategies if you're kind of going, well, I don't have anything, because that's how I was probably 2.5 years ago. I'm going to tell you all the things I did to help me start to feel stronger in my spirituality. But before we do that, I'm going to go way back to how I was raised as far as spirituality. I was raised Catholic and I was baptized, confirmed, all the things. I had to go to what they call CCD, which I don't even know what that stands for. So if you're Catholic and you're like, I know what that stands for, get in there. And my mom is very strong in her faith, and she still goes to church every single week. And she'll always say, I think you girls would have turned out better if I would have sent you to Catholic school, which just makes me kind of laugh because I'm like, oh, Mom, me and my sister would have turned out just the way we turned out. So it really just, for me, Catholicism felt boring. I never felt excited at church. I never felt spiritually connected to any of it. And I just went because that's what Mom said we did. We went every Saturday night to Mass, and it was just what we were going to do. There was no fighting about it. And, when you go to my parents' house you still do the dinner prayer before you eat a meal. So it was very in me, and I never enjoyed it. And I do think that there should be joy in your religion, whatever it is. So when I went to college, I tried it out still. I was like, okay, I need to meet people. So I went to the Catholic church that was on campus, and I think I went like twice. And I was like, I just don't think this is for me. And I feel like from 18 to 43, I just kind of went and tried to explore things, but was not really open-minded about a lot of paths. And that changed probably about 2 years ago. So Heather, what's your story like?
My father was an atheist. My mother's what you would call agnostic. I'm from the South, and I lived in a very Catholic town. There's a Catholic university, and when I was little, you would see the nuns and the monks around. So it was a split mostly between Catholic and, like, Baptist, Lutheran, Presbyterian.
Okay.
And I liked the Catholic church. I liked the music, I liked the structure. I remember being little, making, like, crafts for Mary. And as an adult, I attended some catechism classes at a Catholic church in Asheville, and I liked it, but I'm not welcome there as a lesbian lady. So there's
Yeah.
that. And so that kinda took that off the table.
Yeah, the local church in our community, our choir is not welcome to sing there because our conductor is gay.
Oh, yeah, we're not allowed in the Catholic.
And I was like, "What?"
So growing up Southern Baptist, I would go to church with friends. I liked it, but I had a lot of trauma from those particular experiences.
Yeah. No, that's very understandable, and when you say that, it makes me remember there were just moments that didn't sit right with me growing up when they would say, "If you're any other religion, you're going to hell." And I was like, "Really?" Like, that's like a whole lot of people in this world that are all just going to hell because they're not Catholic? Like, that is crazy. And there was a whole bunch of me fighting with my parents all the time about how you would dress when you go to mass. You need to dress your best. You need to look, your Sunday best. And I thought it was just a total crock. Like, why does it matter what I look like for God who's supposed to be this benevolent being that loves me no matter what? So there were a lot of arguments in our house over being Catholic. My mom really, she hung tight. So I applaud her for that as far as it goes when you have a conviction as a parent and you want your children to be on that path as well. But I don't feel like there was an open communication about any other form of religion, form of spirituality in our family. So I think that it's really important, though, to open that door on your alcohol free journey. And if you're listening and you're going, oh my God, no, don't worry. I was that person for like 3 years on my alcohol free journey. So there's just that struggle, right? When I would hear from like people in AA, you got to find a higher power. You've got to turn it over to God. I just was like, I can't do that. And that was one of the reasons I didn't go to AA. And I know whenever I say that online, people say AA is not religious, it's spiritual. Well, here's a little bit of this. I don't like group prayer. I just don't like it. I don't like prayer. I don't like group chants. If I'm at a sporting event and everybody's doing a chant and a cheer, I am like standing there awkward AF. It's like not for me. And I just also have had experiences where people say, "Oh, don't worry, we're Christian, but we're not going to try to pull you into it." And oh my gosh, the moment I went, I'm being tried to pull like, "Oh, come this way. Now come and worship this way." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's what AA is gonna be. They're gonna do group chants. I don't like that. Second, they're gonna say, 'Oh, no, you can pick any higher power.'" They're like, "But choose God." I have no idea if that's how it is. You haven't been to an AA meeting, have you?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have been?
Mhm.
Did you have to chant with people,
No,
like group
no,
prayer?
like, the meetings, I don't remember doing a group prayer
Okay. See,
at
that's
all.
something I just have made up in my mind.
I'm thinking about the serenity prayer, and I'm trying to
Mhm.
which I'll spare y'all because I memorized it, just how my brain works, but I can't remember if we even did that in the meetings. They were
Okay.
online, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, somebody will have to chime in and tell us because it's actually on my little list of to-dos to go to the local AA meeting here. And I know I've been saying it like since we started this podcast, but my schedule is about to open up because choir will go on a break. And I'm like, I need to go check it out and I'll report back to you. But it is something when I quit drinking, I thought, I can't do that. That's not going to work for me. And I think that this is a common struggle for a lot of people. If you feel like this, don't worry. We're not going to talk to you about going back to the church you grew up in or anything like that. We're going to give you new ways to go about it. So, let's talk about how I discovered a new perspective on spirituality. I found my girl, Gabby Bernstein, and I feel like she opened up a whole new world to me. And I listened to her books before I quit drinking. And it's kind of like, okay, she's all about manifesting your best life, bringing it into you. And she talks a lot about God, higher power, universe, spirit guides. She uses all different words for it. And there's no church, there's no religion. It's just finding it within yourself. And there is something that spoke to me about that even when I was a drinker, but then I kind of forgot about it, right? I'm on this journey of being alcohol free, and people are telling me you should really try to find a higher power. And I'm like, I just can't figure it out. And people are saying it can be anything, you can pick out anything. And I'm like, and finally it stuck when I started listening to Gabby Bernstein. I just loved how she spoke about it. And the thing that I think I loved the most is she will talk a lot about spirit guides and that there's more than one helping you out all the time. And that really helped me start leaving the feeling like I was bound to the religious dogma that I think I was in with before and going, okay, I can pick my own stuff and I can watch this woman do it with confidence. And I can take bits and pieces from her because that's what I love about her. And I can listen to other people and take bits and pieces from them and start figuring out my path. So, my path really is now I'm guided by the universe. The universe has a plan for me. I do meditations to my spirit guides. I talk to my spirit guides each night before I go to bed. It's kind of like prayer. I just do it, eyes closed, talking in my brain. And I really do offer up worries. And when I feel like I can't handle this, I'll say, I'm going to surrender this to the universe. And it has helped me so much. So I would love to know, what's your spiritual path now?
Well, in my adult life, like I said, after I came out as a lesbian, I went to a lot of like different queer churches, whether it be like Southern or Baptist. And then I was in an Episcopal family for 9 years. So we would go to the Episcopal church, which is structured very much like the Catholic Church, somewhat like the Lutheran Church. And we have been accepted since I think 1978.
Yes.
So that felt pretty good. And recently, this year, I have had this like tugging about like exploring more. So I am one that's like God, Goddess, the universe, right?
Mhm.
And that is how I pray. Like, God, Goddess, universe, please calm and cleanse my heart, as an example. And recently, like I said, I have that tug to like explore different religions or different sectors. But for further context, when I was a hospice social worker, I took care of like folks who are Hmong, folks who are Islamic, all kinds of religious backgrounds. And I learned a lot about the practices, namely like end of life, right? Like I knew about the last rites for folks who are Catholic. I knew about Baptists. So that kind of laid a further foundation of curiosity. So I've been doing this like Bible study that is for teens, and it's like God, gospel, and gender to like relearn a lot of this stuff from a perspective that I think is really cool. And my daughter goes to a Christian. So it's like if she has questions, and my daughter has a lot of questions, I want to be able to answer them fairly age appropriately and be accurate, right?
Yeah.
So we're just exploring different churches at the moment. And a cool thing, if you want to do that, is you can like a lot of churches have Zoom. So you could go and like lurk in the background. Or if you have Facebook, a lot of them do like lives about their sermons. So it's
Cool.
a good way to like dip your toe in. And when we moved here last year, we joined a Universalist Unitarian church, which you could have Christian, pagan, Jewish, Buddhist, atheist. And I learned a good amount just about being a good human.
Yeah.
And the thought process behind the UU is we're all interconnected in the web of life.
I would love to find, is it a Unitarian church?
Universalist Unitarian.
Universalist Unitarian. That's something that I'm always like, ooh, when the house build is done, because I know they're not going to have it in the small town that is my big town. That is my first big town. But I know they'll have it in the city that's like an hour away from us. So I keep being like, that would be something that I could see myself finding that path because I do like that as a kid, I had something.
Mhm.
And it's something that I kind of feel like my kids are lacking. And they just kinda watch me do my stuff, and they're like, "Oh, there's mom talking to her spirit guides, like, giving it up to the universe at dinner time." But I like that they have their grandparents close, and they can say, "Okay, well, tell me about your religion then. Tell me about this and that and all of these things. So I do want to express like why is a spiritual path actually beneficial on an alcohol-free journey? Because have you found it to be beneficial to you?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. When I
That surprised me, actually.
Right? Oh my gosh, because when I started, I was a hard hell no on the whole spirituality, religion side. I was like, yeah, I mean, and I meditated. I was like, maybe I'll choose like, but I was just, no, that's not for me. And when I started diving deeper into it, I could see that it helped me so much. It can be incredibly grounding for your sobriety. It provides a supportive framework for navigating challenges. And that's something that's helped me a lot. And spirituality can help you see your journey as a part of something bigger. And I think that that helps me so much in the almost this sounds very preachy, but like the spreading the word of sobriety, the helping other people on their path. I really do feel like somehow the universe knew it was time for me to quit drinking and gave me the voice to share it with other people and to help other people. And I know that that keeps me really grounded in my journey. And it just adds this whole layer of meaning to your commitment to your alcohol free life. And I just am so happy that I finally figured it out for me, what it looks like for me. And the thing is, too, if you're listening to how I talk about it and you're like, nah, that's not for me, or you're listening to Heather and you're saying, that's not for me either, that's okay. I really want you to explore like Heather has done and go out there and say, what are all the different options out there for you?
Yeah, I think it's really important to reevaluate it without a lot of self pressure or judgment.
Yeah.
And if you have religious trauma, honor that and unpack some of that with a professional and maybe start slow and do your research. For example, if folks, some people will be like, okay, you can be gay, but you can't have kids. Or you can be gay and come to this church. We just won't marry gay people. So they have to pass all of that before I get any kind of invested.
Right.
I say that to say, if you're leery, like do a little homework. It's okay to ask a priest or a preacher or pastor questions. It's okay to email. Like,
Hmm.
that's okay to do that.
I love what you said too of like kind of go be a lurker on their service on Facebook or their live stream. I think that that's pretty cool that that happens now.
My sweet daddy used to tell me when I was little, and he knew more about the Christian Bible than anybody I knew. As an atheist, I found that fascinating. And I had so many questions, like 5-year-old Heather in Sunday school. I had so many questions.
Yeah.
And he could answer them and other people couldn't, and he would just say, like, "No matter what spiritual path you take, know what you're getting into and learn about it. Basically, don't believe everything you're told by a pastor or what have you. Do your homework, do your research."
Do your due diligence. I like that. Another way that spirituality can help your alcohol free journey is it just helps you build resilience because you can find comfort when you start surrendering your worries and to a greater force. That's something that I have found so much comfort in as I've started to do it more and more. Now I don't just surrender things and say, "Well, that's it. I don't need to do anything now." I don't want people to think that. But sometimes I will ask my spirit guides to take this from me, and I'm going to put trust in them that it's all going to work out the way it's supposed to. And I can do that with spirit guides. I can do it with the universe, whoever I choose to ask at that moment. But really, what it does is it just helps release worry for a second for me. I've still got to go do the work because I can be like, oh, universe, just help us pass this huge inspection that we need to pass so we'll get our final occupancy, right? I can say that, but if I don't go fix all the errors in the house, then it's not going to work. I'm more asking the universe to just guide me. Let me know that I've got it in me. And I did that this summer. I cannot even tell you how many times on the house build I have asked the universe for support, and it has provided in ways that I could have never imagined. When we were getting ready to put up our huge ceiling, cover it with all the shiplap, I knew I couldn't help Ryan, like, because I'm so terrified of heights. I can't stand when we're on the scaffolding. And I was like, universe, you got to help me out. Well, Ryan found a new racquetball buddy that happened to not have a job at the time, and he knows about construction and loves this stuff and was like, "Oh, I'll help you guys finish your ceiling." I always say the universe brought him into our life. And same thing with the summer. I was like, I can't build another summer. I just can't do this. We had the coolest summer on record since we started the house build. And I it's just those little things where it is like you can surrender. And then if you look and see, it's providing, it's just showing up. So I went on a little tangent there.
No, that's a great example.
But it's another thing when you're on your alcohol-free journey and you're just like, I can't go to the Christmas party and not drink. I'm just not gonna be able to do it. Give it up to the universe and start watching for signs, and they'll start either showing you people who have done it before you or giving you little nudges to say, "This is a way you could come up with a white lie for this," or, "What if you went for this amount of time?" If you just get quiet when you surrender things and you just start listening, all of a sudden you're gonna be guided, and that has helped me so much, and I know that sounds really woo-woo, but I also know that my mom on the Catholic side does that too. She just does it in a different way through prayer. Because when I tell my mom this stuff, she's like, "Are you sure you're not religious? Are you sure you're not Catholic anymore?" And I'm like, "Mhm."
Is it just means that you do something consistently, right?
Yeah,
So you can be religious with the practices to the universe or sage and candles and crystals. That is a continual practice.
yeah, exactly. So I want you to start thinking about defining your own spiritual path outside of traditional religion. It's like Heather was saying, it's a personal journey, and you just start figuring out what resonates with you, free of any expectations. And we're going to offer some different ways that don't require conventional beliefs. We're going to talk about mindfulness, meditation, gratitude, connecting with nature, and a few other ways. But as we go through them, I just want you to remember that spirituality can be as simple as a daily practice of appreciation for life, looking for the beauty in moments, and just being aware of the energy that's around us and getting quiet and reflecting on that energy and saying, okay, this is what's around me. And another thing with spirituality on your alcohol free journey is I have found that the more I've dove into it, the more alcohol free people come into my life and just show me that, hey, this is possible. And especially alcohol free people that have this similar approach to me. It's very cool when you talk about the energy around us. It's that whole the vibe attracts your tribe thing. So, are you ready to dive into the ways you can start finding your spiritual path? Okay. I have 5 ways that you can go about finding that non-traditional spiritual path. And remember, even if you're listening and you're going, "Well, I am pretty strong in my Christian belief," these can still be brought into anything. So don't totally tune it out. The first thing is to just explore different sources of inspiration. So for me, that was looking to Gabby Bernstein and listening to what she had to say. And she is not a guru. She's not a spiritual leader. She's a lady who gives like inspirational talks. And within that, she talks about spirit guides. But by listening to her, all of a sudden I started learning about all different people that were very similar to her. And I was able to start listening to their stuff and going, okay, I feel like I'm getting a better handle on this and what it will look like for me. It's kind of like how Heather went on her journey and said, I'm going to learn as much as I can about other religions.
Like, as an example, if you're like interested in mythology, so to speak, you could go back and look at some of the gods and goddesses and see
Hmm.
like what who inspires you. There are, I mean, it's an endless source of simply just information and like what lights you up. What are you interested in?
Yeah, I love that idea too, because it's guided. When you said that, I was like, and one of those people can be your spirit guides. Like, that's
Yes,
totally allowed.
absolutely.
The next idea is to connect with nature. This is probably the first thing I did when I started looking, because everybody kept saying, your higher power can be Mother Earth. And I was like, I don't know if that's right for me, but I do love nature. Maybe it's just nature. I say just nature. It's like it's such a big part of my life. But I want you to start just spending some time outdoors. This doesn't have to be hiking. If you're like, oh my God, I don't want to go on a grueling hike, you don't have to. Go sit in a park. Just start observing and being really quiet in nature and start feeling that connectedness to the earth and that groundedness. It's a really cool thing. I feel like when I started doing this is when I started seeing thousands of mushrooms on the forest floor and all different plants all around me. And it's just cool to see that the universe is powerful enough to do all of that. So it's powerful enough to make really cool things for me happen too.
Yeah, I'm an indoor cat. Indoor, outdoor cat. I'm starting to try to embrace more of the outdoor cat piece and just sitting on the porch and like looking outside at the trees and like the sky the other morning was so pink. It was beautiful. And I love water. So going to sit by the water, and just like dipping into a little bit of nature has been really helpful.
I love that you've found ways too, because I know I'm definitely an outdoor cat. The next idea to find your path is to start practicing surrendering. And I talked about that a little bit when I have a big worry. I surrender it to the universe and I just say, figure this out for me. I know you've got the plan. Just do what you're going to do. And I know that that sounds like, really? You just do that and you feel better? It really, really helps. But here are some ways that I actually practice this, because one way I do it is I just say it before I go to bed. It's one of the things I'm repeating in my brain. But another way to do it is to journal. You can just get that worry all out in your journal, and at the end just ask the universe to take care of it. Ask your God to take care of it. Ask your spirit guides, whatever it is. Another way I do it is I meditate. I will meditate. I'll find in my app, you can go in and you can type in surrender, and you're going to find guided meditations to help you surrender. And they'll help you go through this practice. And then another way is guided imagery. What would it look like if you surrender this worry? What would it look like if it all goes right? What would it look like if it all goes wrong? How would you navigate that? That just helps you surrender it and give it up. Do you practice surrendering at all?
Every morning I say this, it's a similar type of surrender, if you will. And it goes like this: a way opens before me, all obstacles are released. I bring forth all that has meaning and brings purpose into my life. So that's, kind of releasing, kind of surrendering, and
Yeah.
then bringing in what brings meaning and purpose.
Yeah. I love thank you for sharing that. That was cool.
You're welcome.
All right, your fourth way, and Heather mentioned this too, is creating daily rituals, having a daily practice. You can do simple rituals like lighting a candle, morning affirmations, or writing down what you'd like to surrender for the day and ways to feel connected to that higher purpose or higher power, whatever you want to call it. Ones that I do, my morning affirmations are part of my daily ritual, my gratitudes are part of my daily ritual, and my meditation. Those are 3 things that I really do to stay connected to my higher self, to stay connected to my spirit guides, and then the other thing I do as part of my daily practice is before I go to bed, I talk to my spirit guides, and when you guys are like, "Well, who are her spirit guides? How do you pick that out?" Well, you can have multiple spirit guides. They can be different angels. Everybody has them, and if you're going, "Whoa, this is some crazy stuff right now," don't worry. I felt that way too. And my husband thinks I'm way bonkers when I start talking about this, but this helps me, so I use it. And if you think this will help you, then use it. But one of my spirit guides is my grandma. One of my spirit guides is my dog. And it is just a way to still have that relationship with them and just know I'm always being helped and guided by these people that I know loved me here on earth and now can help me from wherever they are. And I know I said people, and one of mine is my dog, and that sounds kind of crazy, but it works for me. And that's what I want you to know. It can just like, if you are like, what the heck? Just think of it that way. Do you do anything with spirit guides or angels?
I do. I have like a little altar in my bedroom that has things that are meaningful to me, including like my daughter's picture, my dad's picture. And like as far as rituals, I do that opening prayer. And then every night I do a more detailed prayer. And I've just started doing like a letting go practice where I pick one thing every day that I'm going to like visually let go if it no longer serves me or there's just no reason to carry it.
Yeah,
And I do
that's cool.
gratitude and affirmations. And my sweet daddy is definitely a spirit guide. And my first love, who is deceased for sure. And I never thought about a pet. So I'm glad that you said that because my dog passed away in July. And like Gracie would have some powerful energy for sure.
Yeah. I know, I always feel like, "Really? Your dog?" And I'm like, "It works for me." I always think and then I thought, "Is that even allowed?" And I was like, "Of course it's allowed. It's all allowed." And I think that that's what's cool. And I kinda globbed the daily rituals and spirit guides together, so I'm glad you talked about both of them there. And one last thing as far as spirit guides go, there's something called your highest self or your wise self, and that's something to just think about of what would my highest self do in this situation? And it's just a really cool way to start. It's kind of like that best day ritual
Mhm,
and seeing yourself in that way. So that can even be a guide for you, yourself as your
mhm.
highest self. And I think that's a cool way to look at it too. So if you're new to that whole thing, you're new to spirit guides and you're kind of like, that's interesting. I'd like to start it. I'm very new to it too. I'm like a little spirit guide baby, really diving into all this stuff. But it's helped me so much over the past, I think, 2.5 years. It might be 3 years now that I've been bringing this practice in. And one other spirit guide that I have crosses right into, two actually, the Catholic religion. Saint Anthony, he's my right hand man. He's the saint of lost items, and I lose things a lot, and I have a prayer to Saint Anthony that I will say out loud. My kids know it, everybody knows it, and I swear I will find the thing. It'll be right in front of my face sometimes, and I'm like, "Thank you, Saint Anthony." And my other one is Saint Francis, who is a
Mhm.
saint that guides animals and protects animals. So every night I add Saint Anthony in to just protect all my animals that we have here on the our hobby farm. So just I add that in because I want people to know if you were raised in the Catholic religion and you really liked the idea of saints, because I really did as a kid, I loved hearing their stories. That can be a part of your thing too. And it's actually opened up conversation for me and my mom in this area, and I have found that to be really cool. So that's my whole thing on bringing in spirituality without following the typical what you think of when you think of religion. I really hope it has helped if you've been listening. And I just want you to remember that finding spirituality and sobriety, it's personal, it's flexible, and it is free from the constraints of traditional religious structures. So if you're like me and you grew up in something very, very structured, this is something really free. And that helped me a lot. And I just want you to remain open to what feels right. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I just wanna add that, do your research, do your homework if you're going to explore something new, and you don't have to follow the path that your parent or grandparents did. You don't have to.
Yeah, you can find your own thing, and I love it because it's shown my kids they can find their own thing as they grow
Mhm.
and change too. So, I hope that you feel empowered after listening to this, and if you liked this episode, remember to rate and review, and feel free to check out the link in the show notes for the Daymakers community where we talk about things like this, or do some one-on-one coaching with Heather, because if this is an area that you're struggling, you can talk this through with Heather one on one.
Mhm.
What a cool
I
thing to do.
I talk about this a lot with my folks. I learn a lot, they learn a lot. I believe I have a fairly open mind and a good bit of curiosity.
Yeah. So,
So and make sure, like, if this landed with you and you wanna share it with a friend, even if they're not on an alcohol-free journey, share away, and we'll be in your ear next week. Bye, y'all.